Okay, we should be live. Just pause this before it gets super annoying. All right, so welcome everybody. This is the Node.js mentorship team and team meeting. Today, it's just AJ and I. Ben is tied up in a meeting, and Ahmed is tied up in a roadblock in the Israeli-Palestinian border. So we are truly a global community, and I hope Ahmed will be able to join us soon. We have some really cool stuff coming up at the Node.js Collaboration Summit in Vancouver in October. That is co-located at Node.js Interactive. Node plus JS Interactive, and really excited to have the opportunity to share with folks and get more folks not just in as mentees, but hopefully get more folks in as mentors. That'll be a great opportunity for us to liaise with folks throughout the project and get folks excited about that. A lot of the folks that are active today in the community committee joined us, including myself, joined the community committee last year at the Collaboration Summit at Node.js Interactive. So, okay, so let's look at our agenda, and I'm just going to pull that up so we can all look at that. Spend less time looking at me and more time looking at GitHub. All right, so why don't we go top to bottom? Okay, so process and guidelines for handling undesirable events during the program. So if we're going to define the guidelines for undesirable events, maybe we should start with the definition of what undesirable events is, so we can deal with that. Is that code of conduct violations, or is that something different?
No, so far it's just lack of responsiveness repeated in some cases. One of the previous people we lost contact with temporarily, that later we got back in contact with him, and he had a kickoff meeting, and now we're unable to, or his mentee was unable to get in touch with him again. I had Ahmed send his mentee his email address since it was publicly available. So I'm not sure what happened after that. I don't know if they've been able to get back in contact or not. But Ahmed had said he wanted to discuss that in today's meeting yesterday.
Got it. So I've separated out the instances of mentors and mentees.
Mm-hmm.
Just to sort of start the framing. So unresponsive mentors, unresponsive mentees. I don't know that much changes amongst either, but in this case, we were specifically addressing an instance of an unresponsive mentor.
Two cases actually, with two different mentors.
Got it. Okay, so would we do anything different with each one? If we're going to create a process for each, how much do they differ?
Well, a mentor could potentially affect multiple people. Like if a mentee drops off and the mentor has other mentees, it just continues on with them. Whereas if the mentor becomes unresponsive, all the mentees are affected under that mentor.
Right. Okay. Then unresponsive mentees. So I'm going to actually assert that an unresponsive mentee for a first-time mentor is actually has a potential deep impact on this program. So, that could result in, a mentor potentially dropping out of the mentorship program
Right.
because they aren't getting the feedback that they're expecting and interaction that they're expecting. But it doesn't necessarily create as much churn as especially as a mentor.
So I will say, Ahmed in this most recent instance was leaning towards discontinuing that mentor from the program. And I told him I had some reservations about that. I didn't get to go into detail because he said we'll just discuss it tomorrow. So I was just waiting for today. But what I was going to say is that, even negative experiences are still valid feedback in this round.
Sure, sure.
So if these are good things to find out, and kicking someone from the beta round isn't really useful to us in any way.
Right, right.
So that's
right, because we're learning. We're also learning how to deal with exceptions. Right.
Exactly.
That's the main purpose of us, doing these, short iterations is really to build muscle on. All right, what happens? How do we ensure that everyone has a good experience and as good as we can possibly provide?
Right. So I was thinking more along the lines of try to get back in touch with that mentor and ask them, is there something, why did this happen? How can we keep this from happening? What's, why has this been hard for you to keep in contact with us?
Right. I do like that there being, clearly defined consequences. That's
right. Kind of like the moderation team, like first offense, second offense, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And right. Yeah, I think having a clear sense of what those consequences are is also a benefit to us as a team, right?
But we're not going to use the word consequences.
Okay.
Someone told me
Outcomes.
that.
Right. So I'm going to continue to use the word consequence until I figure out a better word, because outcomes aren't necessarily. Outcome is based on the consequences. So I can't quite, lean on the word outcomes to replace it.
Yes, I was just joking anyway.
No, but I agree. Like we don't want, we don't want to be overbearing parents, right? But that's not what we're here for. We're all volunteers, trying to facilitate folks getting involved in volunteering. So, we can't be overly aggressive and
right.
And be inviting, right? Like the incompatible moves.
This is all just forward looking stuff for me. Cause we've been kind of hit or miss ourselves as administration during this first round. We're all feeling it out. So it doesn't feel fair to, punish people for stuff right now. But we will eventually have it stabilized and enough that we could have some guidelines. So I think the sooner we get a leg up on that, the better, like we're doing here. So.
Right. So in terms of, potential sort of escalation path, I think, not being too heavy-handed with sort of first exceptions is essential, right?
Yes.
I don't think there's no I don't think there's any scenario where there's one strike, you're out, unless it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
code of conduct violation.
Yeah, and
Code of
even
conduct violation, sure. Like, we need to, escalate quickly to protect individuals that are,
Mhm.
collaborating with us. Non-code of conduct violations, or otherwise known as life happens. um, and we get something reported back to the team. I think that is, first we seek to engage with the mentor or the mentee.
Right. Yeah, I think we should be flexible with that as long as the mentee is okay with, say the mentor's just got a hectic schedule and they have to keep rescheduling meetings, for instance. Some mentees may not mind that at all. And if that's the case, then I don't see any reason for us to step in. So, in that way, I think we should be flexible. And, if it was like, if we're talking about strikes against someone, I think a strike against someone shouldn't even happen unless it's, or like, I look at it as like excused absences from school, as long as they have a good reason and they let us know what happened, that's different than just dropping off the face of the earth.
Right, right, and again, yeah, we want to avoid the strikes, but definitely provide a path to escalation and mitigation. So one thing that I do think we should do in that circumstance is make sure that we provide the mentor or mentee, whoever's unable to, whoever's been unable to make their schedule work, with an out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there should be an optional way out, right? We don't need to come down and sort of inflict a rule there, but we do need to ask. We should be asking the mentor and the mentee in the case of unresponsiveness. Can you, looking at the time commitment that you've made, we have in our case a month. You've committed to meeting several hours, with your mentee. What the time zones in which that individual is generally available. Have we defined that much?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so yeah, you have the context of when you can meet. You agreed that you would have that time. Is that no longer the case? Right? Did you in actually trying to put this into practice? Did you discover that, hey, your job situation changed, your life situation changed? Do we need to step in as the team to help you deal with this situation and make sure that everyone participating in the mentor mentee pairing is being taken care
We may want to make more of a point of asking for multiple communication mediums from a mentor when we first start. To say, or potentially what's like an emergency contact almost, like if we
of?
tried everything and we can't get in touch with you, what are we
Why,
supposed to do?
why would we need an emergency escalation path?
Uh,
Just testing.
like I guess pre-emergency, like we're about to have to take action on you if we can't get in touch with you. So is there a escape hatch for that to where we can probably get in touch with you? If somebody just gives us their email and they don't check email but once a week or something,
Right.
not very useful. But
Sure. Right. I mean, for example, I am very much that way. If the only way that you're getting in touch with me is via email, it's hit or miss. It's very there's a very good chance that it'll get lost in the daily crush of email.
right.
And
And I wasn't saying we should like require an emergency contact type of thing. I was just saying, give them the option of giving us multiple ones, maybe saying which one is most to least desirable for them, I guess.
Rhythm. Yeah, I mean, I've shared with the context with this team, and it's been effective, for us in connecting and making sure that we're collaborating together effectively. The single greatest way to get in touch with me is DM me on Twitter, and we've used that effectively, and when I'm not responsive in other medium, having that escalation path has been something that this team has found useful as well. Okay, all right, I like that.
That may be something to put on the form as well, the application form for mentors.
How do we
I
refer
think
to
right
that?
now the only thing we get is email address, and like you said, a lot of people, that's not their primary form of communication.
Right, right. Um,
Actually, that may not be true. We might have Twitter or something else on there.
right, but I don't want to index what works well for me doesn't necessarily work well for other people, right?
Right.
I know a bunch of people that are, for example, are not even on Twitter. So if there's an expectation of like, oh, like D Shaw, we should be able to DM you, like that's not realistic. What we're trying to do is, you know, have an effective communication medium and effective communication that works for the individual. Um, request escalation, request preferred alternative. Communication channel.
Yes.
Medium. Okay. Okay, first mentorship team, contacts.
And this may become more clear when we get our roles defined more, because I think the EA is supposed to be kind of an intermediary, which I'm
Right
not
on.
sure how much that's happening yet.
Sure.
So that first instance, maybe maybe the mentee or the mentor reaching out to the EA. I'm not sure how that would work.
So in the second instance, I would like to propose something like the mentor, the mentee would step down from the current cohort, would ask to exit the current cohort. Third, I wonder if I'm just gonna put this in here. Right. I wonder if we should not have like a permanent record and like you've done this 3 times and like
Right.
you're out. But if like we've tried and it fails and you're exiting a cohort and then we come back and we try again, then like then I think we're gonna have to say,
forcibly removed.
Right.
But yeah, so like I said earlier, I think it'll be relative to both parties. Like
mm-hmm.
it differs depending on if it's a problem for the other person. If
mm.
it if it's just flakiness and the other person's okay with a little flakiness, then I don't see any reason for escalation. But
Right.
it's like we said, it's mentee driven. So if the mentee is unhappy with the experience, I guess that's when the escalation process would come into play.
Right. Okay.
That's probably good for that for
Yeah.
now. I just wanted to get the ball rolling on that.
Okay. All right. So this is a note on my behalf. So I guess I should be responsible for addressing it. um, the issue is how to handle mentor-mentee pair deciding to work together after graduation. Uh, our objective here as the mentorship team would hopefully be to encourage our mentors to become available and help other people. Especially since we have so many individuals who have raised their hands, asking to participate in the mentorship as mentees, in mentorship as mentees. But I guess there's a assumption here, and sort of articulating that out loud, that the mentor has an obligation to re-up. I don't think that's a real assumption, or that's a realistic assumption, right?
Right.
Shoot, I'm an example of this. In this cohort, I agreed to mentor Ahmed, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to re-up. I hope I can.
Right.
I honestly, was barely comfortable in sort of, taking that time commitment, and yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, we want to avoid being heavy-handed,
Mm,
and that feels heavy-handed to me to say, "Oh, you can't work with them because we need you on the next round." So,
mm-hmm. Right. So if the mentor mentee wants to continue to work together, yeah, I think that's the crux of that
this
question.
kind of goes back to
Us not
something
knowing.
I mentioned way early on, I think before I was even a team
Mm-hmm.
member, which was like a rolling cohort, like
Mm-hmm.
instead
Mm-hmm.
of having a definitive time period to just let them mentor until they felt mentored, until both parties felt satisfied that they had reached their goal, and then have kind of a pool that the mentor can go back to and grab somebody else when they're done.
Right. 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 Um, we aren't doing cohort analysis or anything, like that with the programs yet. Um, so we don't have any requirements on time,
Mm-hmm.
and if our mentors like are I forget what the I think it begins with a K. Uh, Ben's mentee. Um,
Costas.
hmm?
Costas.
Ben Co.
Oh, oh, sorry. What'd you say? Ben's mentee?
Mentee, right? So Ben and
Jennifer. Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay, so Ben and Jennifer, for example, both have been really fantastic and proactive about sharing what they're learning along their journey. So, if for example that particular pair, decides to continue their mentorship diary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the real impact here is, if they're continuing the mentor mentee pair, um, and they disappear, okay, right? It's a no up. If they continue sharing a diary and participating through the mentorship programming and sharing the context of what they're learning with folks through the Node.js project, like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it seems likely that the longer it goes on, the deeper and more advanced topics they'd explore. So that our program may inadvertently end up being more useful to the people who aren't directly involved, or at least
Mm-hmm. Right.
the larger volume of the impact it has maybe on people who aren't being mentored because of the small number of people we're actually able to actively mentor. We could potentially have hundreds of people reading the journals and learning from those. So.
Right. I'm gonna propose that we close this actually and say that this issue is a mentorship team concern,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is solving our problem, right? We have
Right.
a high volume of mentees and want to encourage more mentors, but like we shouldn't have that impact our um,
Right. We need to find a different solution for that.
Okay. I love this one. All right. So, should we move bios and diaries to files instead of issues? Probably, but so the upside of issues is you have kind of direct input. It's easy to throw something at GitHub, and you don't need to be a sophisticated GitHub user to do it. The downside is file is there's an ongoing public record. There's timestamps, contributions, attribution, hierarchy, right? We can archive things over time and still have referenceable content and invite whomever wants to experiment with that to
Right. So as I mentioned at the bottom of it, the obvious downside I saw was that we'd have to manage the PRs for them to edit their diaries. Right. But I just had a thought there. An alternative to that would be letting the mentor be responsible for keeping the diary in their own repo, and then we could create a link or a list of links to all the current cohort diaries.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I think the administrative burden of that is going to be even higher. And
how so?
um, so you know, we as team members have one repo that we need to watch.
Oh, right.
Right.
Okay, I
And
got you.
then that becomes repos
Right.
that we need to watch
Yeah, you're
and
right.
potentially um, you know we move context out of the authority of the Node.js moderation team.
Yeah,
So
good
right,
point.
yeah. So I don't think that is
Yeah, and I don't think the increased administrative cost is insurmountable. We can just recruit more people for that.
what what I think we can lean on here is um, the fact that we are not only team members who have you know ability and authority to do things in Node.js sphere, but all of our mentors do too, right? Since we
Right.
shifted the program to emphasize members of the Node.js projects being our
Mhm.
mentors, that means that anybody who is a mentor can also work with us to land the PRs, call for um, additional reviews. So I think that administrative cost is actually potentially a program benefit where it'll encourage more eyes on and more collaboration.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hmm. Do um, do you want to take a shot at sort of converting the current process into a document? I mean, you're already doing that with landing our minutes, right?
Hmm.
So you're landing our minutes post factum. Um, it's a meeting. Just defining what a folder structure might be.
Yeah, yeah, I can do that.
Right. I think that'd be great, and I think that's a good direction for us to go. And my um, main test of effectiveness is based on the Node.js project being GitHub centric, and are we doing things that makes it more in line with that sort of baseline consideration? Yes. So off we go. So walk me through what's going on here.
Okay.
This is
So it just felt like, I believe you, myself, and Ahmed have all had personal things going on
sure,
that
right?
sapped our time a bit here lately.
Yep.
But so I'm
Everybody's
sure
busy.
that's the main cause. But it just
Mhm.
feels like the administration of the program is kind of slipping. Uh, so I just kind of made a throw together issue of everything that
Nice.
came to mind. Um, so we've mentioned several times about making roles specific roles for team members rather than everybody just being a generic team member,
Right.
and delegating more tasks to those members.
Hmm.
Because right now it's kind of just a free for all between mostly the three of us doing
Right.
it, just kind of whatever needs to be done.
Yep.
Uh, so that's the first one. And yeah, I'll go on when you're ready.
Oh no, I was just going to pull up some context while we're doing that.
That's fine. I'm just reading off of your screen right now. So
Sorry to be distracting.
you're good.
Um, what I was looking for is Tierney's post. Um, there we go. So this, I thought Tierney did a great job emphasizing which. Hey, Gary. Sorry. I thought Tierney did a great job of laying out not just the tasks that need to be done, but expectations around time.
Okay. And that was in context of the ComCom or?
Right, the ComCom chair. Right.
Okay.
So you've mapped these out in terms of tasks. Probably to make this most effective, we need to translate that into something like a role. And but we don't have to. And like we can experiment with have things be task driven or kind of attribute driven.
Right. It could be kind of like the action items during meetings. Just say who
Right.
wants to take this task.
Sure.
But
And
yeah, I do think moving forward, we probably do want to have more the first thing you said, like a role.
right. But that said, I think we are a healthy team if we're actively and proactively compensating for others' needs, right? So, by doing a better job at capturing and defining the expectations. If, for example, I say I'm interviewing all week, I'm not going to have any time, then one of the other team members is like, all right, you don't have any time. You're responsible for setting up the meeting, doing, these three tasks.
Right. Kind of have
and
a
step in.
pinch hitter.
Right. Right.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Never mind.
I hate that. Yeah, you're trying to scroll the other person's screen.
Okay. Yeah, you can scroll back down. So yeah, what I was saying is, it seems like the engagement from our team members has been gradually lowering, which I think is just because we haven't really given them an active role to do
Sure.
anything.
Sure.
So I think once we make those roles and start specifically delegating things, we'll either get engagement back up or figure out that we need to recruit more people, and then we can start making steps towards that.
Yep.
Um,
And then having explicit expectations will will make that easier, right?
Yeah, right. It's hard to say you're not doing your job when we haven't told
We
you
have
what
no
you're
expectation.
doing.
Right.
So team meeting issue creation, I don't know what the name of that is. I just called it the agenda issue. That used to be where we'd share the link for the meetings before they happen, and would be that was a good place for last minute conversation on, hey, do we have a good link, or the link's not working, or is this meeting canceled, or that kind of stuff. And we haven't had those for a while now.
This is a totally automatable thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a task, and that task is getting the issue generation script set up. But once that's set up, then basically you don't have to think about that again. In user feedback, the group that I chair, I asked Michael Dawson to help set that up. He set it up himself. And since that, I've only ever had challenges around meetings that I really needed to schedule out far into the future. The nice thing about the automation is it's there at meeting time. The downside of the automation is it's not there. In user feedback, I have been scheduling out meetings as much as a month in advance, to enable our enterprise or tooling focus area leads to take and run their own things, or to build consensus around a topic where we really need an anchor out in the out and visible. Um, and then there's the annoyance of if you do that, then the automated thing does kick off. Like, it's not that aware. So if you've already created the issue, I've had a couple times where there's another issue that pops up and it's not the actual one. So, there's some minor quibbles and annoyances with that, but by and large, it is much more effective than the dice roll of, like, does anyone on the team have time to go and create that.
Right. So what do we need to do to make that happen?
Get the automated script set up. Do
we just need to reach out to Michael Dawson about that, or?
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the agenda items is kind of related to that. I think it wouldn't have become a problem as much if we had those issues to show what was on the agenda and from one meeting to the next. Because as it stands, we just kind of have the ones that, the issues that are labeled, but we don't have any context around which meeting they were labeled. So again,
if we have the automated script, it's going to pick up anything that is labeled mentorship agenda. And, that, for example, it frequently happens in the community committee meeting that, no one took off the label, from a previous meeting. And so it pops back up. And yes, it's a minor annoyance, but, the second time you see it, 2 weeks later, it's a great driver to say, you go and remove that label. So I think the agenda item curation would largely be solved by that automation step.
Okay. And the other half of that was just something I noticed on myself doing, was just thinking of things at the last minute right before the meeting, and then I had something come up and I couldn't create an issue. Right. But I'm not sure there's much to be done about that. But
one thing we kind of did this today. We can dedicate more of our time to in our team meetings to doing these sorts of things. That's totally okay, right? If we're seeing that if we don't capture that thing in the meeting, that doesn't happen. Let's make sure that we do capture that, and we do carve out time. And right now, I don't want anyone. We're all volunteers here. We all have responsibilities. You're starting a whole new life adventure. So what we should be encouraging is good signaling, right? As much as possible, get it down as soon as you can. And we've done a pretty good job at that. And action items basically aren't action items until there's an issue, right? Team members should also be willing to say, hey, I'm going to step away, right? And I don't have time following this meeting to go and capture an action item. Could someone else capture it? We reviewed a couple action items where, that was the case for me. I had back-to-back meetings, and, I wasn't able to do it. And, we still have the issue that Ahmed created and, captured on my behalf.
Oh, okay. So that was, I guess, pretty much covers the action items thing.
So action items is like, we need to encourage us as a team that someone, if we're assigning an action item or taking an action item, we have to put that in, and maybe in our agenda we just carve out time. Have you ever heard of Amazon meetings?
No.
Okay. Amazon did something really smart to compensate with this, with the reality that, folks don't have the time to prepare for meetings. And they kind of took that reality to heart and built meeting process around that. And so what they do is, the meeting, the individual calling for a meeting has the burden of, creating a document with context for everyone else in the meeting. And they literally start the meeting with everyone, laptops down and reading the content that everyone is supposed to be debating on, shutting up, right? That's the hardest part is, getting folks to not, like jump in, hot take on, that thing in the first paragraph, shut up, allow everyone to read through and then begin the meeting. So, I think that's a healthy appreciation of reality. And as much as we can sort of come back to that baseline of we are all volunteers. We're dealing with reality, and we're doing the best that we can. Then we should be consistently optimizing for that rather than some perfect state or other expected state.
So, out of the two options I listed there, one being making an issue for every action item, and the other being kind of the opposite, not making any issues and just reading the meeting notes and going from last meeting to this meeting and seeing what's changed, what action items are still there, which, following up on them that way. Mm-hmm. Which of those do you think it works better?
So I definitely think that the action items of the action item approach, I guess there's one delta here between what I articulated and what's potentially an action item, right? An action item could be a comment or in an issue thread, right? And I think that's the most likely to get lost, based on my experience, right?
Right. So would it be overkill to create an issue for every action item?
I think that we should start with just the recommendation is that if you have an action item that create an issue, and the reason being is that could potentially you have GitHub tooling that you can assign someone to that. And if we create an issue and it's assigned to someone and that person becomes unavailable, then we can reassign it.
Right. Okay. So that's it for that. And then the stale issues, I was just looking through the issues and we've got like 29 open ones, I think now, or something around that number. So I think one or two of them could be closed, but that's low priority. I just wanted to put it out there.
No, that's the probably the least likely to least likely yak to be shaved is going through and closing those stale issues. I definitely find that sometimes I have a day where I'm really going through. I have some extra time and I'm really going through the issues and I have time and space to think about it. It's a nice little exercise to do, but I think if we optimize for the others, then the stale issue culling will be easier to deal with.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I had.
Great.
Which I guess we're out of time anyway.
We're out of time, right?
YouTube comments?
We got through all of our issues and close one, and have some actual stuff to follow up on each of these.
Did you check the YouTube comments?
Let's go check that out. My scowl. That's it. So no comments. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks.